My name's Aaron, I'm 29, native to Nottingham. I currently work in a community engagement role at the New Art Exchange in Hyson Green.
My name is Andre, aka Andre the producer. I'm a musician, songwriter from Nottingham.
Hi, my name is Angelika. I am a nomad and an activist at heart. I am the founder of Tęcza Burzy Foundation, which was recently created to support LGBT plus community in Poland with their mental health. I'm also a YouTube content creator. I've got my channel Pink Matter, and it focuses on, again, mental health, on inspiring people and with whatever it is that they want to do. It's about personal development, it's about interesting individuals who are changing the world.
Hello, my name is Khaya and I am a 22-year-old creative from Nottingham. I run the magazine platform and I run the creative online platform and annual magazine called Femme Fatale Gals, and we talk about vulnerability, social issues, feminism, race, love and so much more.
My name's Lily Bevan and I am from Women in Tandem. So we're a female-led bike collective in Nottingham, and we have been established to support and empower women to feel more confident on their bike. And we do this through education by teaching women how to fix bikes and doing cycle training so that they feel more confident on the road. We also do bike fixing currently from the garden, so repairs for everyone, men, women. That's a great income generating aspect of the collective, so get your bike fixed with us. And also we offer maintenance classes for women in the park, and then we've got a few community projects running alongside that as well to support more vulnerable women.
I cycle absolutely everywhere. You know, I do the things, I recycle. I kind of mend and make do a lot. I try not to buy new. Try to make everything last until it's completely disintegrated. And yeah, just kind of that thing of trying to sustain myself. And then I suppose kind of my line of work really, my kind of interest in the way that I like to program community events, kind of lay in between kind of our local community and our kind of seasons really. So I like to kind of use that, as we all have a commonality with the seasons, no matter who we are, where we're from or what we're doing.
I think my passion probably lies in with like just the environment alone, so like in itself. So I'm very into animals, I'm very into like nature, and trying to keep it sustainable. And obviously the way we live isn't always the greatest to care for nature and animals. So I guess it's probably just like the standard. I'm not like a super green person, like I am trying. But yeah, recycle, and like I really love nature. So I think just being able to protect it and to help protect it is definitely just something for me, for now and in the future. Like, yeah.
Too often we separate ourselves from nature. What I mean by that is it should be personal to all of us, right? I mean, we're part of it, so we should see ourselves as being part of it and think about what impact we have. And so for me, I'm trying to learn what I can do on a daily basis to change my footprint and make it a bit more positive. So that could be as little as not using plastic bags or buying packaged fruit. And some of the products are, you know, we use for those who this is applicable to. For instance, menstrual cups are fantastic. There's lots of things, and there's a lot to learn. There are a lot of activists and educators out there, so I would highly recommend just checking it out. And some of the things that you're used to, there might be little things, but actually they make a big difference.
But yeah, so just kind of healthy eating. I'm really interested in sustainable clothing a lot more now, because I was one of those people that fell victim to fast fashion. And so especially during lockdown, I've been really educating myself on the demand and the mass production of fashion, and obviously the way that they pay people to produce these clothes. A lot of these clothes that are made from plastic end up in landfill. So that's an issue that is important to me, and I'm trying to learn more about how I can be more sustainable in my clothing, and instead of throwing things away, giving them to friends. At home, my mum is very, very environmentally friendly, so I learn a lot through her about how harmful chemicals can be to the environment and to the skin. So she makes a lot of her own like washing up liquids, and we reuse all of the jars that we have, and we reuse a lot of bottles and stuff.
One issue, I'm going to pick cycling because of women in tandem, and how I think that if everyone just rode bikes instead of driving cars, you're going to massively cut carbon emissions, and you're going to create greener, healthier cities, and it helps people's mental health and well-being.
I think money is a massive thing. I suppose people that kind of run maybe on a lower socio kind of economic level can't afford to do the things that kind of, you know, maybe keep us going in a green sense, or have the time to kind of even think about those things, you know, because you've got so much else to worry about. So I think that is it, and kind of a lack of kind of education around. I think there are lots of initiatives that are kind of set in and around the city in terms of, and the country in terms of kind of wind farming on a kind of national level, but we're not given too much information about that.
Very accustomed to a lot of things that are not renewable, that are not being able to be recycled and stuff like that. Plastics, other types of materials that we're used to in everyday life, which we haven't thought about the future. We've thought about, oh wait, this works now, and it does the job. But I think when you're trying to reprogram somebody else to be like, okay, cool, use paper straws or use paper bags, or do you know what I mean? People now try to find the loopholes, and this doesn't work right, or I don't like a paper bag because it might split too easily other than a plastic bag, etc., etc. So I think it's just people being accustomed to things that aren't renewable, and it's definitely a barrier. But once people get over it and find something that suits them, because everyone's different. Some people are happy with just with having to like cut back a lot of things, but other people, that's their norm. So, and I don't think one size fits all.
People are stuck in their ways. I think behaviour change is, or any change is the most difficult thing for people, even with personal things, with things that we know is good for us. So what I mean by that, if you just think about going to the gym, you know, urgency. We talk about it as, you know, climate change, and even from a linguistic perspective, this doesn't sound particularly alarming. So something like a climate crisis is more appropriate.
But it is true, there are so many small things that you can do that are actually enjoyable, even if it is, oh, I'm drinking from a paper straw, or like I did with my water bottle. I found a really nice one on Amazon that I could reuse, and it's really big, and it tells me how many litres I've drank, and I know if I fill it twice, then I've drank my water for the day, and things like that are fun. But because there isn't really anyone, well, there are people, but I don't really see those kind of things on my social media feeds. They aren't the top conversations that or maybe they are, but they're not in my algorithm. I'm not seeing them. So people, I've been lucky because I have my mum, but if people, their parents and their people around them don't have the awareness, then unless you go seeking these things for yourself, it is quite difficult, I would say. I think when you hear things like climate change, global warming, they sound very heavy, because they are. And so immediately there is a disconnect between people, and there are so many social issues and problems within the world that it can be hard to know where to start, and the environment and the world and the planet can seem so far away from us sometimes that it's easy to just go, it doesn't exist, it's not going to affect me, the world's not going to end before my time, I'm going to go to work and come home and don't give a shit, whatever, I've got my recycling bin.
For a start, climate activism is a huge privilege. Like if you're worrying about the planet and the climate, you've had education and you're not worrying about food on your table, and you're not worrying about having a roof over your head. So, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that privilege, and it gets overlooked when people just run smaller campaigns, which are important, which are telling you to maybe recycle more or eat less meat. And there are lots of things you can do to live a more low impact lifestyle, but I think it is really important that people understand why. So I think education and kind of the dissemination of information is important as well. Like, I have only really learned in the last few years the kind of state that the planet is in at the moment. We're in a climate emergency, and I don't think other people, or some people, understand quite how serious that is.
Kind of cited in the last question, that thing of kind of renewable energy, setting up these kind of infrastructures for people that need them to kind of lower their kind of bills, and for them to kind of concentrate on maybe, you know, it's that thing of maybe buying sustainable, locally grown food, or setting up your own spaces where that can enable you to do that for yourself. Also, my kind of thing of living here and cycling everywhere is just that the cycle routes are shocking and the roads are shocking. And I think if the roads were safer for people to be able to cycle about, I think a lot more people would, basically, as a thing. And, you know, incentivising that, you know, the cycle schemes as a basic kind of, you know, if you gave everyone a bike, they'd be able to get wherever, wouldn't they, in and around kind of at least a 2-mile radius of the city. I think Nottingham's quite small, so that's quite easy to do. But even the kind of the upstart cost of that can be too much for a lot of people. So again, it's just providing, isn't it, and looking after and kind of supporting. But I think it's that thing of that honesty and transparency in what you're actually providing, and just making that clear cut for people so they know what is accessible and what isn't. So they have a voice to incite change, really. I suppose a lot of people don't know what their options are because they're not presented to them. It's as basic as that, I think.
Making the information more accessible. If you want to find the information, it's very easy to find it in the sense of someone who is very like in that mind, I need to find something green, or I need to find something that helps my environment. But for everyday people who don't think that way, the information needs to be put in their faces and let them know, like, not just a simple, well, we need to help the world, climate change, because we've been hearing that for years. It needs to be broken down to simpler terms and let people know that they're able to help through everyday life. And it's a hard thing because it's reprogramming people. But I definitely believe that information needs to be more accessible. I believe that it be taught in schools to kids, because then they can grow up and then teach the youngers, and it kind of creates like a ripple effect. But you don't just teach them about climate change and all those things there. You don't want to give them problems, you want to give them solutions. I believe that we don't get enough solutions. I think that a lot of people just highlight the problem. So then, as a person in this world who's one of a billion, do you know what I mean? How can I just help climate change when it should be like, okay, cool, these things add to climate change, which you can change. Do you know what I'm saying? I think those are the things that need to be highlighted a lot more, just to help with everybody who's not inclined, not environmentally friendly inclined, you know what I'm saying?
Right, so what I'm hearing is, even if, for example, let's say in a hypothetical situation, they are teaching that kind of stuff in schools, or maybe the government is giving out some information, it's actually even from like like a linguistic point of view, that they're not delivering it in a way that could be as clear as possible as this is what I'm
Yeah, it's just got to make it simple. Like, as much as people are very smart, sometimes you need to be given information a bit more duller. Do you know what I mean? Just for them to actually break through. That's not me implementing that people are dumb or whatever, but yeah, I just think it's a lot more easy when things are straightforward and people know black and white, okay, this is what's happening, this is what I can do, then it just makes things a lot easier.
My immediate answer to this would be education. I think education is the key to a lot of issues, but also considering how you deliver that. So for instance, if you're talking to teenagers, make it sound cool. I think making sure that you reach people from different backgrounds, because sometimes it tends to be, you know, very middle class, or it's only in certain areas that you see it. And I think a lot of people would actually get involved if they were aware of what can be done and how easy it can be. So if it's delivered the right way.
I think events are really good. I think especially in the area of Hockley, like one of my friends, her and her boyfriend, they hired Rough Trade and basically sold all of their clothes and stuff and things like that. And if more people are to do events like that around the city for different projects and stuff, the more people that are going to go, oh, that's cool. They don't even realise that they are helping the environment by going to these fun things like clothes swaps and stuff.
Things that I mentioned before, I think everyone needs to listen to those facts and have an environmental policy in their company and actively try and live more sustainably. In terms of my ideas from the industry that I'm working in, I think cycling can have a tremendous positive impact on the environment. If people start making that switch from using their car less to using their bike more, it is going to make an impact. There's going to be less cars in the city. I don't think people should be driving into town unless you really have to. It's going to be a greener, happier, healthier city. People are going to be more physically active. They're going to feel happier because they're being active, and it's just more sustainable in the long term.
But if people aren't able to breathe easy and eat kind of normally, really, to be able to procure fresh kind of food, then of course it's going to mess you up. Like, I kind of live, you know, luckily I'm kind of, I don't have anyone to kind of look after, it's only myself, so I kind of manage, and then there are times that some months I can't as well, and I feel that quite directly, and that's me being a relatively healthy person without any kind of external pressures of others. So I think it's a direct result, isn't it, really? I think those things will affect you negatively and will make you spiral. And also I think if you're from a particular background where that's never been a thing for you, you won't even have the answers to that. You won't recognise it as a negative or a thing that you need to kind of maybe get yourself out of, which I think is a crying shame. And again, is a responsibility to our kind of governing bodies, and they don't take that on. So yeah.
Mental health, again, that kind of stuff. When you're not eating the right things, your mind's not in the right place. So again, it's like a ripple effect. It affects all different kinds of people. But then being from a low income place, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's kind of when you're trying to be quote unquote green, and you can't because of your financial situation. It's very hard. So then it's like I've got to just buy what I can.
I think huge. Whether they realise it or no, I think we have a tendency in our society to separate mental health from physical health, which is just, it does not exist, they come together. There isn't one without the other, and there is more and more research that shows how many conditions, physical conditions actually start from repressing, emotions or from stress and all of that. So we shouldn't really forget that they don't exist separately. And I think in terms of food and water, I mean, that's your fuel. And everything that happens in your gut area affects your brain. So it's going to have an impact on your well-being.
There's just a range of things. One being confidence. Like I was talking to you about, health is something I've become super passionate about. You can't really function properly if you're not getting enough nutrients in your diet. And unfortunately, the most accessible food is the cheapest stuff. It's not very good for you. It's easy. So again, like I was saying to you, a lot of people from marginalised backgrounds or more disadvantaged backgrounds, they're not going to think about sustainability when food and health is a huge barrier to begin with. That's, in my opinion, something that needs to be tackled first. And I know like Jamie Oliver does loads of stuff of like trying to encourage people to eat more healthily and stuff, but those are really important issues. And so people, marginalised people from disadvantaged backgrounds, if they're not eating properly, they're not going to feel as good as they can. If health is wealth. And one of my favourite quotes is, "Let food be thy medicine." And so if you're not eating right, you're not feeling right.
Climate injustice and the state of the climate at the moment and the way it's continuing to get worse and worse is going to start to affect people disproportionately, and that is going to mean that disadvantaged groups, people with low income, marginalised groups are going to be affected worse. So a few examples, like you said, about the living in somewhere where there's really high air pollution. They don't have the choice to move. They have to live with that day to day, and they probably maybe can't afford to go on holidays. Like, we can't all just fly to the Maldives or like go skating like some people can, and so they're forced to live with that air pollution day in, day out, and that is going to mean there's going to be less green spaces in the area that they live in, less open spaces, which can be hugely beneficial to your mental health and physical health for getting out and about. Air pollution can affect your immune system. You're going to get ill more. It's going to put a strain on healthcare services. And then I guess that there's also back to that thing of education. So education being as well a privilege, I'm aware of how beneficial it is to my health to cycle and exercise, and I'm aware how I need to eat healthy and what I need to eat. But if you don't have that education, or you don't have the time to commit to that, which if you're on a lower income that's going to be the case, then you're just going to be fed all of that jargon from huge companies like McDonald's that tell you that junk food is going to make your kids happy, that it's cheap, that it's quick, that it's easy, or even now McDonald's new campaign is like the deli counter or whatever, that it's somehow healthy. Like people are going to believe that, and people are going to buy into that, and it's going to just follow. It's going to continue down that road to obesity, to health conditions, and so I think then there needs to be better education, and there needs to be like cheap, healthy food available to everyone, and then air pollution needs to be monitored, and that's the responsibility of everyone. We can't just blame areas of high air pollution on them. Like I think a lot of people put blame onto China for their high air pollution. I'm not saying that they don't have a role to play, but who's buying all the products that they're producing? Who's part of that consumer market? Like it's all connected, and we all need to take responsibility, and especially those with privilege need to take more responsibility and use their privilege for that cause.